What I would like to say to my Jamaican friends and family and everybody abroad, this place is going to grow. And what you don't want is 15 years or 20 years from this, you're saying, oh my God, I've missed the train. To my Jamaican buddies here in Jamaica, look to Negril for future development. Nowhere that has a beach like ours will remain dormant for long. We are constantly among the top 10 beaches in the world, even when we do nothing towards our beach. Can you imagine if we put a little effort in it?
Hey YouTube fam, welcome back to another video podcast episode here at On Deck with Throp, where we have meaningful conversations with people from around the world all about Jamaica. My name is Winthrop Wellington and I am your host today, and we have a very special guest as we are on location. We have a very good friend of my family's, a mentor, an environmentalist, an entrepreneur, a farmer, a hotelier, my friend, Mr. Daniel Grizzle.
I'm happy to be your guest, and I will look forward to our little discussion here.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for being here, and a big welcome to you from the Throp family here on the podcast.
Thank you.
So as I alluded to before, you wear multiple hats. You have been here in the Negril community for quite some time,
Yes.
and your family has made major contributions. And if you would, in your own words, can you introduce yourself to us here in the audience?
Well, my name is Daniel Grizzle. I was born in the next parish from here, Hanover, about 60 miles from where we are sitting at the moment. I'm from a farming family up in the hills of Hanover, so I always have a special love for agriculture and nature as a whole, because that's what farming does. It gives you an appreciation of nature and the natural environment. I went to England in the late 50s, like most immigrants roughly my age. While I was there, I did quite a few things, but I was always attracted to agriculture. So in the end, I went to agriculture school and decided I'd secure a job at the time in Tanzania to work on one of those Nereri community farms as an instructor. And my wife and I came to Jamaica. She fell in love with Jamaica, and that's history. That's how we're here, and I have no regrets.
Amazing, amazing. And so were you technically a part of the Windrush movement?
I think it was a little bit, my mother was.
Okay.
But I think I was a little bit after the Windrush.
Okay.
Right.
And what year did you migrate back to Jamaica?
I came back to Jamaica in 1972.
In 1972.
Right.
And you started farming immediately when you moved back?
Yes, that's what we did. We had a farm, and the farm was okay, but there was no cash. You know, you live, you eat, you drink. But my wife was a fantastic cook, and we always have friends coming from Kingston and all over at weekend. Almost every weekend was a party. Mm-hmm. We would eat, cook, and then we would come to Bloody Bay. There was nothing then. And we would have our rum punch, chicken, and have a great beach party and go back home and chat, play domino, do whatever. So, we says, well, since you're such a good cook, let's start a restaurant. But we didn't want to have a full restaurant where we stay up all night, so we thought we would have a deli. At that time, most of Negril tourism was cottage, people in the West End. So we thought we would put up a deli, and people would come and buy nice things and go home. But I think the American view of a deli and the Europeans are slightly different.
I see.
And people are coming in asking for a hash brown and corned beef sandwich.
American stuff.
Right. So, and they want to sit down and eat. So the deli slowly becomes a restaurant.
I see.
And that's it. And we started in rental properties. And as usual, once it becomes or seems to be successful, the people want back their property. So I says to my wife, I'm not going to argue with anybody, even though we had a lease and could have. But says no. And we were in France for a holiday. It was in the summer. And this was very strange. I mean, some things were just meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
We were walking in one of the busy streets in Paris on a Saturday night, Boulevard Saint-Germain. I mean, it's a huge street. Thousands of people from all over the world walking up and down. And I heard this voice say, Daniel, you know what, there are lots of Daniel around. So, you know what? But the person said, Daniel again, a bit louder, and there's a familiar sound. I turn around, and one of our customers, who was the owner of Mirage at the time, an Italian from Milan, he was in Paris, and I happens to be in Paris. We happens to be in the same street within feet from each other.
Wow.
So we went in a cafe, we sat down and we were talking. He said if I would manage his property. I says, not really, I'm not interested in managing it, but I'll be interested in leasing it.
Mm-hmm.
And within less than 2 weeks, we had a lease signed up. And that's how we started the Cafe au Lait restaurant in Mirage.
Wow.
And the West End. And that was a huge success.
Wow.
And that's how, a couple of years after, this property came on the market, and we made an offer, and that's it.
Wow. When you purchased the property, did you just purchase the land and then build?
No,
or was there something here?
no. It was just where the bar is.
Yes.
And the office. That was a 10-bedroom little hotel.
I see.
And then, being as restaurant has always been our thing in food, the first thing, we didn't have much money, but the first thing we built was this restaurant. And we had in our mind how we would like the finished product to be.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't have the cash to do the finished product. So we start with the restaurant. And at that time, we had 2 restaurants going. My wife was here at night, and I was at the West End. We had a mortgage, of course, to pay.
Right.
Right? So for the first 2 to 3 years, I don't think my wife bought a new dress or a new pair of shoes. We had an old banger of a car that couldn't make it to Kingston. When I'm going to Kingston, she would drop me in Savlamar, catch the minibus, and that's how we did it for 2 years. Because what happened, when we bought it from the gentleman who we remained friends until he died 2 years ago, but his wife, and we're still in contact, we went to the bank for a loan, and they were giving us a loan. I think the interest rate at the time was, I think it was 8 or 9%.
Okay.
And so he came back, says, yes, I've got the loan. He says, by the way, what kind of interest they're giving you? I told him. He says, when I get the money, I'm going to put it in the bank, and they're going to give me so much. I think at that time they would have given him about 5.
Okay.
So he says, why don't we split the difference? The difference between the high and the low.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him that. I gained, he gained.
Right.
And he carried the mortgage for 4 years, and we remained friends. So
wow. That's
sometime when luck is on your
right,
side,
right.
there is nothing beat the good luck.
No, that's
It's
pretty
up to
great.
you to capitalize on the luck.
Right.
And that's basically how we started.
It's amazing. And so you bought the property at 10 rooms, and how many rooms do you have now?
59.
59 rooms.
Right.
Okay, excellent. And you obviously still have Mirage as well.
And we still have Mirage as well. But the restaurant, after a while, it becomes too much to keep up two restaurants.
Yeah.
So we tear down the restaurant, and we have now a small 12-bedroom hotel.
I see.
All the
Excellent.
Mirage Resort. And we still have the farm, by the way.
Okay, excellent. And that supplies the property.
Yes, we do. Well, the eggs, the goats, lamb, beef, vegetable, mangoes. When you've grown up in farming, it's hard to separate yourself from it. It's a natural part of life.
Right.
I always said to people, other people goes to their psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I goes to my farm.
That's your therapy.
That's my therapy, because animals are very grateful, while human being can be ungrateful. You treat them good. You know, they hear like the goats and the sheep, they hear my pickup coming up, and they all start to bah, because, you know, we bring like the stale breads and stuff.
Right.
And they love it. So,
Awesome.
you know, we're good buddies.
Yeah, no waste.
No. Well, you know, I think that's something we all have to try to do more.
Yes.
Reduce what we throw away. Because a lot of what we throw away, if we think carefully about it, we can use it. Like, and apart from the last 2-3 years, we didn't do any turkey or ducks. But when we rear turkey, the guest automatically, without we saying, wants to know why the flavor, why it's so tasteful. It's just different.
Yeah.
And half of what we feed those turkey on are scraps
Oh, wow.
from the kitchen. As long as you ensure there is no meat, you have to make that separation.
Gotcha.
But vegetable scraps from the dining room table. And when you look, that amount for a large part of your garbage. So we feed it to the turkeys. When we rear ducks, we're having problem getting ducklings now, so we don't do much duck.
I see.
But you can save a lot of things. You can reduce the amount you send to the garbage heap if you just kind of think about what you're going to do with it and how you're going to deal with it.
And I think that's a good transition into the environmental aspect of your life. And I know your family are big environmentalists and advocates for protecting the ecosystem here in Negril. And I forgot to mention, of course, we work together on the Negril Chamber of Commerce as directors, and in the past have fought for Negril's ecosystem and for the environment. I guess to open up this subject, what made you kind of get into that, or what motivated you to be an environmentalist?
You know, this is funny. Where the environment is concerned, to be all frank with you, the real driver and engine with this is really my wife. Even when we were in England, she was always on about, even before the word environment was popular.
Right.
She was always on about, you got to protect the nature, you got to take care of the environment. We always go camping. We love go camping. And she always insists that we take up our garbage, we leave the place as clean as we find it. And everything she did in her life, even before it was popular, was always. So that's really how I become engaged in the environment. And as I said before, being a farmer, being in farming from we were kids, you were always very respectful of the environment, because that's how we made our living,
Right.
from the environment. And you always kind of care for nature, plants, preserve the soil, that kind of thing. So that's really how we get into it. Then when we get involved in the hotel industry, it even highlights the need to preserve the environment, because really what we are asking is for people to pay to come and spend time in our environment.
Right.
So the environment becomes very important. And that's why we had a hell of a battle in the 80s fighting to get central sewage in Negril, because we realized we had to have central sewage in a way to protect the quality of the water that we have here. And if the quality of the water is bad, you're also endangering marine life.
Right.
And we get our food from the sea. So it's just a natural thing for us to be careful or to be protective of the environment, because without we ensure we have a healthy environment, then our health and our survival is now at stake.
What would you say is the biggest battle that you faced regarding the environment here in Negril?
The biggest battle we face regarding the environment right now are twofold. One is to get everyone to be more conscious, to teach people, let people become aware, because without people input, nothing is going to happen. And the next one is to ensure that we protect our reef, because from our reef, as I said, come our food, comes the protection of the wave action on the beach, which is what we sell. So that to me is one of our biggest battle. And that also, that's what I say, you can't say a one thing, that goes together. The morass over here, years ago you used to think morass was just a bit of wasteland.
Right.
We can't use that as an excuse now, because we are all aware of the important value of the wetlands to the whole ecosystem. And right now, one of our biggest battles is to preserve the wetland as well, to ensure that no further encroachment has taken place, and to restore it to its natural form with its natural vegetation, its natural animal life. And as you know, Sophie, my daughter, and Nola and Damien, they are on this IWECO board, which is working to help us to restore that. So there isn't any one outstanding battle. It's these three most important things which are linked together. I think we have to be more, we have to show who are present more in the school, because if you get the younger children, to get it in their mind from the beginning to protect the environment, so after we're gone, they will be here to ensure that the environment survive for all the other generations to come.
No, I totally agree with that, because I remember growing up in elementary school, like in New York, it was just, lack of a better term, it was beat into our heads. Like every grade we went in, we learned about the environment, the importance of not littering, the importance or the dangers of carbon dioxide and that sort of thing. And so now me as an adult, it transfers and it makes me care about the earth. It makes me care about the environment. And I think that is absolutely one of the biggest weapons that we have against that, is educating our young people.
Definitely, right? And I think normally the chamber used to have a program, but you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of both sides.
Yes.
Right? You have to have that input from the school as well, and other agency. But I think it's something we're doing at the moment, but we need to step it up a notch or two.
Right. And speaking of the chamber, I always tell people, especially people who ask about networking in Negril and doing business here, I always recommend like the Negril Chamber of Commerce is like the organization to go to. And then I always also say that I honestly don't know where Negril would be without the Chamber of Commerce. And I think a lot of people don't understand, like when I say that, like the reason why, a big reason why I say that is that we don't have a centralized government here in Negril, and we span 2 parishes. And I always say that we're a bit of that redheaded stepchild that kind of gotten forgotten. And I always say, like, we're lucky to have the chamber as an organization to advocate on behalf of the community, of businesses, etc. And were one of the founding fathers of this organization that still exists today, obviously, and still continues to advocate on behalf of Negril. How did you get started? Or what was the thinking behind that?
This is exactly what you just said a while ago. Because we are on 2 parishes, we are not important to either parish, right? It's a fact, we get forgotten.
Right.
And I was on the West End there at the Mirage, and Richard Father, he was my neighbor.
Richard Wallace.
Richard Wallace, president, right? And in the slow times, in those days, the slow times were slow.
I can imagine.
So we used to go over to his bar, and we would be sitting there drinking and, chatting. And we were both conscious of the neglect. We were both conscious that there was a need, a non-political, that's important, a non-political advocate group.
Right.
And we think of all the different clubs and whatever, and we felt the Chamber of Commerce was the better one to use, because it's a non-political, it's business oriented, and it carries some weight.
Right, yes.
So when we started and we decided we're going to go about creating a chamber, we had opposition from Savlamar saying, no, you can't have that. We had opposition from Lucy. But we continued to push, we continued to struggle, because when you believe in something, it's unbelievable where you get the strength from and the courage to go on. Finally, we made an appeal to the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce.
Gotcha.
We put our case to them, explaining our physical position and that we were nobody's children, nobody's child.
Right.
And they agreed. And I think up till now, we are the only chamber which is not linked to a parish. And that's how we start to speak up and ask for things and representing Negril, not as a political group, but just as a business group which has the social, not just the physical environment, but we're also concerned about the social environment. As some people was questioning what kind of chamber we are, because we get carried away with all kind of social issues. For instance, I'll smile about this because you see all over Jamaica now they have these transportation center, right?
Right.
Or transportation park, whatever they call it.
For the taxis and the buses, right?
We were the first one to have one.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Right.
Okay.
And the reason why, just in the town center where the roundabout is, there used to be pack of taxi, and it was creating a real problem.
Wow.
And we went to TPDCO to ask for the money to create that park. Now, if you look upon it, you will see it says, the sign is still there, TPDCO Temporary Park. The reason why it's temporary, and the whole plan of Negril, they transportation center should have been, you know where Smart Choice Hotel,
The hardware. Yes.
across the road from there?
Yeah.
We said, no, this was ridiculous. Nobody's going to walk with their shopping up there to catch.
Right.
So we convinced them. The chamber got the money from TPDCO. We put it up. After we finish it, we realized we need a bathroom. And we went to the MP, and the MP says, well, I haven't got any money, but what I'll do, I'll take you guys to the Minister of Health. It was then John Jr. was the Minister of Health. So before they gather in Parliament, there's like a little after gathering. He took us in there. We barged into John Jr. little cubicle and plea. And at the time, we get $800,000
Wow.
to come and put up the...
I'm sure that was a lot of money back
It's
then.
a lot of money, right? But, you know, it's a nice big bathroom, connecting it to the sewage, We did it,
Awesome.
right? And that was solely the chamber work.
Amazing.
So the chamber, as you rightly says, Negril would have a complete different view. Again, another very important thing is, in the 80s, they wanted to mine the peat to use it for fuel. My wife then, right off to the IUCN, which is the International Union for the Environment, and they sent us an expert from England to come and look and to give their opinion. And we had a lot of battles, a lot of fight to preserve the morass as it is. Because what you would have wind up with is this huge industrial thing and a huge body of water which would kill the reef.
Right.
Because the morass acts as a filter for all the minerals and fertilizer runoff and whatever. It's a filter before the water reaches the reef. That was a really major battle the chamber had. And I think one of the beautiful thing about that, the entire Negril was behind us, right? Which, when you have a whole community behind you, it really gives you this strength.
Right.
And my wife took that up as, you know, that was her battle for life, right?
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, it was our battle for the preservation of Negril,
Yeah.
because we thought Negril worth preserving. We thought Negril brings great economical benefit to the country of Jamaica. And we still think we have a whole heap more to go. And I was talking with Sophie and Damien up to yesterday. We didn't quite realize the speed of which Negril would develop. And unfortunately, sometimes when we're thinking of the development of Negril, we think only of hotel rooms to measure.
Yeah.
But it's not just hotel rooms. It's residents. It's
Right.
people living in our community. And I think up till now, we need to do a census to establish the population of Negril. Because come election time, people go by the poll register.
Right.
But a lot of people live in Negril, but their vote is somewhere else. That's one thing. We also underestimate the number of expatriates that lives in Negril. We also underestimate that because Negril is a very young community, a lot of them don't register for vote. So we cannot use the voter list as to establish the number of residents in Negril.
Right.
And as I says, we underestimate the growth. And right now, we have outgrown the sewage system that we have.
Yeah.
Or we are just at the limit. But there are so many more development to come that we need to start planning for a more a sewage system that can accommodate.
Yes.
And not wait until we need it.
Right.
You have to be proactive with these kind of thing. So that is going to be one of the chamber next big battle. The land has been secured for it, but nothing else has been done.
So this would be a sewage treatment plant?
Yes, a tertiary sewage plant.
I see.
But what we have now, it's at the limit. Right? And it says the residential population is growing. There are a number of projects coming on stream in Negril and around Negril, which going to attract again more people. You can't just count the rooms. You have to, because I think for every room, it's at least 3 individual that comes to Negril.
Like to move?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
For every room, the population increase about 3.
Oh, wow.
For every room, about 3 person.
I see.
Right? So these are some of the things. And since no one else is looking into these issues, again, it comes down to the chamber.
It's the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And so I guess stepping back a little bit, what would you say is one of the biggest forward movements of Negril from a developmental standpoint that has allowed or created an opportunity for Negril to further develop? Like an example that I would give, me remembering as a kid driving from Montego Bay to Negril was the worst drive ever. And like I think that improvement from Montego Bay to Negril was a great asset.
Yes.
Is there anything along those lines?
That's a very sore point you have there. We need a bypass from Lucy. And for that we have not just the Negril Chamber is concerned, but the Montego Bay Chamber is also concerned because it hampers that free flow of people from Montego Bay to Negril, Negril to Montego Bay.
Right.
So that's something that we have to take on.
I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I understand like it's on the docket as a priority.
It has, but put it this way, there's a whole Jamaican saying, the squeaky wheels gets the grease.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
And there's never going to be enough fund to do all that's need to be done.
Right.
So, unless you're out there in front, pushing your needs, and not just pushing, but bringing forward why it should be done, not a selfish reason, but for the benefits of the country as a whole.
Right.
So that's what we'll be doing. Another thing we need to take into account, we need to have workers. We need to provide more accommodation. Not everyone can afford to buy a house.
Right.
We need to provide more opportunity for young people to come into our area, to support our business, and therefore we need to deal with accommodation.
And when you say accommodation,
Yeah.
can you give us a ballpark in terms of amounts to pay rent, in terms of affordability?
I think based on the wages, between $15,000 and $20,000 per month, you need to have that range.
So I would say pretty low income.
Yeah.
So that's probably what, $120 US a month for rent, would you say? Mm-hmm. Where do you think something like that can go, a structure or community of that nature?
Fortunately, the government has a lot of land, not just in Negril, but then within that, say, 20, 25 miles environment. And I think that we need to have is a combination between private and government, where if the government is supplying the land and the private sector do the construction, to create little studios apartment for
Right.
young people. Say for instance, you may need a smart front desk person in your hotel who is bilanguage and right? And that person exists in Kingston, just come out of UTech,
Right.
right? Where are you going to put that person up? And because of that, we lose a lot of our bright young people. They leave, they go, they study, but where are they going to live?
I was just having this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine. He's in IT here, lives here, has his business, and that's one of the biggest challenges we have is we would love to have talent come from Kingston, young people, graduated, all about technology, and even in my business and the video production aspect of it, I'm looking for people to come on board, but where are they going to live?
I know.
And they're used to certain level accommodations.
Of course, right? And listen, everybody wants to be comfortable when you go home.
Absolutely.
And we cannot just rely on the private sector alone to provide it, especially the cost of land in around here.
Right.
And when you talk of development, you have to have that social side of development. And since no one is pushing it, it comes back again to the chamber, right? That you have to have accommodation for people. People have to feel good, because it doesn't matter how smart you are, right? If you don't have the quality workers around you, your business is going nowhere.
Right.
We lightly say, oh, the worker or your biggest asset. But sometimes we say it without really believing it.
Right.
And if you believe that it's your asset, then you have to take care
Right.
of your asset.
Absolutely.
And in the new world coming up, it's not a world that will require muscle. It's a work that will require knowledge.
Absolutely.
Right? And we need to realize that. I'll give you an example. If you phone Damrep, which is our competitor, it's a Spanish-speaking country. You phone Mexico, right? You phone Cuba. Somebody there speaks Spanish, and they answer you in Spanish. You says, sorry, I speak English. Immediately. Not half an hour you got to call back to get somebody to speak English. Immediately that person switches, right? And that person can speak English.
Right.
And they'll have somebody there speaking French or German. In Jamaica, I remember my wife, from time to time when people have problem, because my wife was French, they had to call her. Right? And she may be not available at that time
Right.
or whatever. So while we're moving in an international market, English, yes, is a dominant language, but not everybody speaks English.
That's right, of course.
We have to have a bilanguage people in at least one,
Right.
in our establishment, right? And because of that, you can't just think of the physical thing to propel your business. You have to think of the human
Absolutely.
side. And the only body that's going to take that up seriously, at least in Negril, has to be the chamber. And that's why we're pushing at the moment. The government has some land which is subdivided. The chamber had to pay quite a bit large sum of money. And we get one of the community member who happens to be a civil engineer to do the topography,
Gotcha.
to mark out the lots and to put a price, a value. All that work has been done through the chamber because we realize squatting is not the answer.
Of course not.
Right?
Of course not, yeah.
People has to live though.
Right.
And therefore, the state, while everybody has to stand on their own and provide their own, that word they say, you're also your brother's keeper.
Absolutely.
Right? And no man is an island. We need them, they need us.
Absolutely.
And therefore, that's why the chamber is pushing. We hope to bring Minister Pernell Charles Jr. We send him letters. We're trying to get him down here to push that settlement, to push that subdivision. The cost for doing it, which was 3 years ago, we were at the cost, so it may be more now, 190 million Jamaican dollar.
And how many units
I think
are we
it was
talking?
500 and something units.
Okay.
Right? So they could sell it for $1 million per lot. And through the housing trust, which we all contribute,
Yep.
they can give them a loan, so they pay a little deposit and over the time.
Awesome.
But what it does when you do that, it changes that person completely. He's not a squatter. He's not semi-illegal and whatever. That person now becomes a proud landlord. It's his.
Yep.
He can leave it for his kids.
Absolutely.
He can use a title to borrow money to develop himself, maybe to pay for the university fee for his kid. It makes him, that individual, feel more like a member of society.
Right.
And
right.
once you do that, that becomes our biggest safety net. It
Right.
becomes, it's better than any security firm or police or whatever. That's part of the security of a neighborhood, making people feel they have a stake,
Right.
they belong to, they are part of.
Right.
And that's one of the things the chamber, another one of the things that the chamber, as I says, we don't just push for straight business, because business can only grow as fast or as well as the society, as the social environment will allow us.
Absolutely.
So you can't separate.
Right.
They go together.
And with that, moving back to the expats conversation, and I know there are many expats living in Negril, and they've been here for years, and many of my audience members and subscribers, they are either considering moving to Jamaica, to Negril, or moving back to Jamaica, or moving back to Negril. What kind of advice would you have for them, particularly a retired person?
Well, I will do anything to help and assist. I think it's a great area for you to come as a semi-retired person. And two, they contribute so much to the community. For instance, take your father, for instance. Look at his contribution. Take somebody like Elaine, right? And it goes on and on. It's a great, and not only that, they're coming in with a culture, not a culture that is alien to us, but they bring something else to the culture. It's adding.
I agree.
Right? It's adding, right? It's not taking, it's not destroying, it's not saying what you have isn't good. It's just showing us another side to things. And it also, almost every one of the returning guests, I remember my mother, she must have I could never understand. You think she has gotten rid of us, yet she was taking on other kids.
Right.
They help other kids, and some of them are quite proud of it, and they they see me and they says, "Oh, I remember your mother." I says, "Yeah,"
wow,
you know.
wow.
So it adds a whole heap to the social environment. It's enriched us in many ways, right? And for them, I think with all what people say about us, we still have a certain amount of reverence for elder people.
You're talking about, okay, yeah. of
Us
course.
as Jamaica.
Right. Yeah.
We still have that reverence, respect,
Absolutely.
as you says, for older people. And we, for instance, you are never completely alone here because we're very nosy, right? We went, "Oh, I didn't see Mr. Wellington whole day today. Let me go over and see."
And check on him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so there is that feeling that you're not isolated here. You're part of, right? Sometimes we can be a little bit too curious, but that's us.
Right.
But so I would, and I think that expatriate, whether they are returning Jamaicans or just expatriate coming here, is going to be a big part of our industry.
Yes.
I remember telling Mr. McNeil, our MP, before that they should be making a bigger push or doing something to encourage, to make it easier, because the expatriates that come here, all their money is spent locally.
Right.
It's not being exported.
That's right. That's so true.
Right? So it's an injection into the local economy.
Right.
If they rent a house, they normally will take a helper for 1 or 2 days. They support the local supermarket. Okay, you take, during this virus lockdown, the people who keeps the little industry going here was the local and the expatriates, right? So they are of tremendous value. I think we appreciate, and as a community, we welcome them. As the chamber is definitely a welcoming place for them to be or to contact in any little way in which we can help. And if they feel like they are having any difficulty, bring it to us. If it's something we can assist from time to time on an individual basis, we have assist some of them, right? And we'll continue to do that because we appreciate, we value their contribution, and it's a big boost for the economy. And it's not just the money, is there? What I want to emphasize is that as a culture,
right, their experience
they're
bringing to the table, yeah.
Right. As I says, one of the big examples is your father, right? He brings some. He started something that was needed, but nobody else ever thought of it. And look how many people are benefiting from it. So that's an example.
I got a comment the other day, which you addressed pretty well, in respect to the concern that if that particular person are people who are retired moving back to Jamaica, that their presence here would further the economic and social divide between the haves and have-nots, so to speak. And I think you made a very good case to show that no, that's not the case.
No, that's the opposite.
That's what exactly I explained, but you did a much better job than I did.
Okay.
The next thing, big concern, I would say the number one concern that I'm seeing within my community, particularly here on YouTube, is that the number one concern is the safety of expats, retirees moving back to Jamaica. And we all see the headlines that are out there. In respect to that and within that context, what advice would you give somebody who is considering moving back to Jamaica?
Well, it's real, but a lot of the incidents, they are not something where somebody just haphazardly pick on someone, most of it comes from, quite often, sadly now, family or close family connection, right? Where you have greed sets in more than anything else. And another thing, someone has to be careful, as anywhere else in the world, who you associate with.
Right.
And sometimes, sadly, a certain amount of like being naive sets in, and people take people, oh, he's such a nice person, da da da, without really getting to know who you are associating with.
Right.
I cannot say it's not a real threat,
Right.
but it's not something really that should put you off. It's something you have to be aware of, and there are ways to protect yourself. Because for every one bad or nasty incident, there may be 1,000. The trouble, you don't hear of the 1,000. I mean,
The 1,000 positive.
yeah.
Okay.
You take like our good friend who I spoke to about, she lives on her own in the community.
Right.
She's safe, right? It all depends. In Jamaica, we go to extreme. You got the very good and the very bad,
Yeah.
right? You stumble on the very bad, you can have a really nasty experience. And I would say for someone who wants to come and reside in Negril, just get to know the community. And an example, what you have to look at. There are more foreign expatriates living in and around Negril than there are Jamaicans. Right, a lot more. When last have you ever heard of anything negative? And they're all over the place, all
Right,
time
right,
and night.
right.
Right? It's a question of who you're associated with, unfortunately. The Jamaica you leave 25, 40 years ago is not the Jamaica that exists today. It says, I am a returning resident. Your father is. Most of the friends I have are.
Right.
We have no problem.
Right.
I have them in around the Hanover, Westmoreland area. I have them in Kingston. I have them in Montego Bay.
Right.
Touch wood, nothing as negative as ever happens to them.
Right.
It's a question of sometimes you see people and you didn't inquire, you didn't check out who they are. They get in touch, you get in connection with them, and they have nasty intentions. We have bad people around, yes.
Right.
But we also have a hell of a lot more good, decent people
Absolutely.
than you have. And as I says, one of the examples, look at the number of foreign expatriates living in and around Negril. Nothing happens to them.
And you're right, there are a tremendous amount of them.
I know.
Yeah.
And funny, the numbers of women far exceed the number of men in terms of foreign expatriates.
Right. That's very true. I never thought of that, but
Yeah.
that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that should not be one of the reasons. And what I would say, come, look around, talk to people, and make your decision. But we welcome you all, both the returnee and the expatriates who are foreign, because that's what makes Negril. And Negril is developing, and we can be a really great part of this whole Caribbean life style. And Negril people, look out for Negril people as
Absolutely.
a whole, right? I mean, if they pass you, if you're even in St. Elizabeth and somebody pass and see you, they stop, want to inquire, what are you doing here? Are you all right?
Yeah.
Right? No. We are a caring community. I mean, you take Elaine. I don't know if you saw her on the TV. Was it 2 nights ago?
Right.
With all those kids that she. That's what returnee resident brings to us.
Right.
Right. There are so many listed and mentioned positive events, positive things that returnee resident has done in this country. Right?
And we would love to have more of them.
Yes.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And so, in wrapping up and talking about Negril, I guess you can answer this one of two ways. Where do you see Negril going in the next few years in respect to many of the investments that we hear coming on board, and where would you like to see it go?
Okay, where it seems to be trending to, it's a different thing from where I would really like in a small way.
Gotcha.
Where it's trending to, especially along the beach, it's trending to big mega development, which is not us.
Right.
Right? Yes, I welcome the big international company. They bring something. Their presence here increase our presence abroad because of their brand name, because of their promotion.
That's right.
We get more airline seats coming in because of them. So it's not all negative. But what you have to be careful, if the balance, all one side is bad, you have to have a balance. And sometimes we get carried away, especially our politicians. They seems to be only interested in helping the mega bucks and ignoring the small individual properties owned by local people whose income remains here. Right? I mean, I got no problem with if a foreigner invests. Of course, he has to secure at least his capital back. I mean, we do the same as Jamaican. If we go, we send our money back home. So there's nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong if you have Negril becomes completely one-sided? That I think we need to have a balance. And what I try to do, like even when a couple of times I was at the Kingston Chamber of Commerce, I try to talk to people, because there are people in Kingston with that type of capital, to come and invest here. The Jamaicans that I know abroad, I try to encourage them that they invest. Up to a couple of weeks ago, I had a youngster here, and I was talking to he and his wife about investing in Negril. Right. The wife is ready, but he's a little bit. But no, what we need to promote, that Negril does not only wants to see mega development, whether it's an expatriate or it's a returning Jamaican. We love to see the development in the small village type, because that's part of the soul in Negril. That's part of what is attractive in Negril. We don't want to change that. We want growth, but we don't want to change our culture. We don't want to change the image. And that village atmosphere, that community feeling that you get. That's what I would like to see us develop. I think we are going to develop.
Yes.
I think the rental part of Negril, the long-term rental, where you have people wants to come for 6 months and that type, that part of Negril is growing tremendously. If you go on the West End, you drive slowly from You go on the West End Road, go right round to Hag's Heaven, come
Yeah.
back up, and you see the quality development you're seeing there, right? These are not really hotel rooms. These are people in long-term
Right,
rental.
right.
You see what happened at Aqueduct. That's right.
Yes.
You see what happened at Little Bay.
Little Bay, right?
Right? It's growing. That's part. And the beauty about that kind of balance between the regular hotel and those kind of people, it brings more benefit to the local community.
Because the people who stay there become part of the community.
Become part of the community. And it's not just what they bring financially, it's what they bring in addition to our culture or way of life. It brings something new. And that's
Right.
how people learn. That's how people develop, by seeing what somebody else doing, how somebody else does it. And so that's where I would really like to see Negril. But what I would like to say to especially to my Jamaican friends and family and everybody abroad, this place is going to grow. And what you don't want is 15 years or 20 years from this, you're saying, oh my God, I've missed the train. Right? And even to my Jamaican buddies here in Jamaica, look to Negril for future development. We are going to grow. Nowhere that has a beach like ours
That's right.
will remain dormant for long. We are constantly among the top 10 beaches in the world, even when we do nothing towards
Right.
our beach. Can you imagine if we put a little effort in it? This place is going to grow, and I would like to see a beautiful mixture of local and foreign,
Right.
because I think that is the success. Exclusively one or the other is not good.
Absolutely.
It needs that mixture, because that's what Negril is about. That's how Negril has prospered, and that's how we should continue to prosper.
And I think you raised a good point there. I know before you mentioned that you were talking about yesterday with Elaine and Damien about how you didn't expect Negril to develop so quickly.
Right.
But at the same time, in my opinion, Negril is extremely underdeveloped.
It is.
And
It's what? Yes, it is a bit of a conflict, because when we were planning the sewage and things like that, we didn't think in such a short
right.
time. But because it was really very undeveloped in the beginning, there was nothing,
Right.
right? So it is still very undeveloped, but we have to be intelligent. We have to approach the development in a sensible way, where that development can be sustained, where that development can bring benefits to all, not to a small group.
Right.
So we do have a lot of social things to take care of. Right now, we need to have a high school in Negril.
I was talking about this exact same thing
Right.
on my live on Sunday. We need a high school.
We
Absolutely.
need a high school. And the only way we will get that high school, we have lands for a school in Negril.
I didn't know that.
Same, where before we had central sewage, where you had this old sewage treatment plant?
Where is that?
Okay. You drive up past, just a little bit past Smart Choice.
Yeah.
There is another road right there. As you turn there, I think what you have there now is a car wash
Yes.
and some other things.
Yeah.
That plat
Okay.
is for a school.
Gotcha.
That has been there from the 80s,
Wow.
right? Now, the only way we are going to get that high school is by nobody else but the chamber has to go and fight for it.
And you know, it's needed,
It's
obviously.
needed.
And I think what that does is that you can start attracting young families, and this can be a community where you can raise your children from when they're born right until high school,
go off to college.
Exactly.
Right. And we lose a lot of workers because sometimes you have people from Kingston who come, and once they start to have kids, they're gone.
Right.
Once the kid reach high school age, there isn't. And, you know, even to send your kids all the way to Manning's,
Yeah.
right? You know, you want your little kids to be somewhere where you can rush and pick them up.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, it's still a long journey.
Yeah. You know,
and an expensive one.
40, 45 minutes.
Right,
I'd
and
say.
an expensive one. And the community needs a high school because, you know, a good high school, it's not just a place where people go to get educated. It becomes part of the whole community because of whatever is going on. It becomes an extension to other things.
That's right.
The hotels and the business become an extension to the school. And that creates a healthier social environment. And tourism strive better in a healthy social environment. So we need badly a proper high school, and until the chamber start to fight for it, we won't get it.
Right.
And as I says to you, the squeaky wheels gets the grease.
That's right.
You say nothing, you get nothing.
No, that's a great point. And I think that's also a great point to end on, just in terms of the future of Negril, not only in terms of development, but also that of the youngsters coming up.
Yeah.
And so, Mr. Grizzle, I just want to thank you for hopping on the podcast here today with us. I think I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience learned a lot as well.
I enjoy always having a discussion with you, and I enjoy this as well. And as I keep repeating, and I will always repeat, our development cannot only be economical, it has to run parallel with the social development.
Yeah, you're
because
absolutely
they
right.
both feeds from each other.
And can you give us the contact information for Charela if anybody is considering booking a vacation or wanting to come to Negril?
Well, there are several ways. You can go to our website, which is charelainn.com. Simple and easy. There you'll find our email address, which is Chareca, CHARECA @cwjamaica.com. Or you may phone us at 876-957-4648 up to 50.
Gotcha. Right.
Anyhow, thanks very much for inviting me.
Absolutely, and thank you for being on. And thank you all for joining us here today. I hope you learned something and got great value out of this. I know I did. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We definitely need it to help grow the channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys for joining us and spending time with us here today. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, thank you.